If the International Space Station suffers a catastrophic failure, astronauts can evacuate and hit the Earth's surface in roughly 3 hours. If something goes wrong where you are, it will take you 3 weeks to reach the surface. And you are only 600 feet down. There is a rule you learn on day 1, and it is a rule you do not break. You never look up. Looking up reminds you of the crushing weight of the black water standing between you and the sky. If you panic right now, if your appendix bursts, if your heart gives out, or if a fire starts inside this tiny steel tube you are sitting in, you cannot leave. If you open the hatch and swim to the surface, the nitrogen in your blood will expand into bubbles, literally boiling you from the inside out. You would be dead before you even saw the sunlight. Space is safer than this. Welcome to saturation diving. This is your reality for the next 28 days. You are sitting inside a hyperbaric living chamber resting on the deck of a support ship. It is a steel cylinder, maybe 20 feet long and barely 7 feet wide. You share this pipe with 3 other men. There is no privacy. There is no quiet. The air inside this tube is pressurized to match the exact pressure of the ocean floor 600 feet below. Right now, your body is absorbing gases at a rate that is completely unnatural to human biology. Because standard air becomes toxic under this much pressure, you are breathing heliox, a mixture of helium and oxygen. The first thing you notice is the taste. It leaves a cold, metallic film on the back of your throat. The second thing you notice is your voice. The helium alters the density of the air pushing through your vocal cords. When you try to speak to the diver sitting across from you, you sound like a cartoon character. A high-pitched, ridiculous squeak. At first, new guys laugh at it. But the laughter dies after the first week. Because eventually, you realize that for the next month, you cannot have a serious conversation. You cannot scream for help and be understood. Your voice, your identity, has been stripped away by the gas keeping you alive. Your life is now dictated by the umbilical. That is what they call the thick bundle of hoses that feeds you air, hot water, and communication lines. Without it, you are a dead man in 4 minutes. It is time to go to work. You and 1 other diver crawl through a narrow, heavy steel hatch into the diving bell. The bell is your elevator. It is a smaller, even tighter metal sphere that will detach from your living chamber and drop you into the abyss. The metal door clangs shut behind you. The lock engages. The sound of that lock is heavy. Final. You feel the slight lurch as the crane lifts the bell off the deck and swings it out over the open ocean. Through the tiny, scratched acrylic viewport, you see the gray waves violently crashing below. And then, you drop. The descent is slow. You watch the water outside the glass change. It goes from light blue to dark blue to navy and then just black. An absolute, suffocating void. The sunlight cannot penetrate this deep. You are dropping into an alien world, and the only thing tethering you to humanity is a steel cable. The bell hits the seabed with a dull, heavy thud that vibrates through the soles of your boots. You are at the bottom of the ocean. The pressure outside this bell is over 260 pounds per square inch. If the seal on the hatch fails right now, the water won't just flood in, it will cut through you like a steel blade. You begin the process of locking out, You put on your helmet. It weighs nearly 40 pounds on the surface, but down here, it is your entire universe. You hear the hiss of the heliox feeding into the mask. The dive supervisor, sitting in a comfortable, dry control room 600 feet above you, speaks through the earpiece. His voice is scrambled, fed through a descrambler to make him sound normal, while you still sound like a distortion. Diver 1, clear to open the bottom hatch. You turn the heavy wheel. The hatch swings open, revealing a circle of pitch-black water right at your feet. It doesn't rush in because the pressure inside your bell perfectly matches the crushing pressure of the ocean outside. It is a terrifying physics trick that is currently keeping you alive. The cold hits you instantly. It is a freezing, biting cold that seeps right through your thick neoprene suit. The only thing stopping you from freezing to death in minutes is the hot water being pumped down from the surface ship directly into your suit through your umbilical. It flushes over your skin, a bizarre contrast to the freezing black void pressing against your visor. If the hot water pump on the ship fails, your body temperature will plummet so fast your heart will simply stop. You click on your helmet light. The beam cuts through the darkness, illuminating a blizzard of marine snow, dead organic matter slowly drifting down to the ocean floor. Out here, you are completely blind beyond the 10 feet your light can reach. You have no idea what is moving in the darkness just outside the beam. But you are not here to look at the wildlife. You are here to fix a broken oil pipeline. Your boots hit the muddy seafloor. Every step is an exhausting battle against the water resistance and the weight of your gear. You drag your umbilical behind you like a heavy, life-saving tail. The work is brutal. You are holding heavy hydraulic tools, trying to tighten massive steel bolts on a rusted pipe. In the pitch black, in the freezing cold, your hands cramp. Your muscles burn. But you cannot stop. You have a 6-hour shift outside the bell, and every minute costs the oil company thousands of dollars. They are watching you through the camera mounted on your helmet. You are just a pair of expensive hands in the dark. You work in silence, listening only to the loud, rhythmic sound of your own breathing echoing inside your helmet. Inhale. Exhale. The hiss of the regulator. It is a deeply isolating soundtrack. And then, the nightmare scenario flashes in your mind. Every saturation diver thinks about it, no matter how seasoned they are. Delta P, differential pressure. If there is a crack in the pipeline you are working on, a pipe that is empty on the inside but surrounded by thousands of tons of pressurized ocean water on the outside, it creates a vacuum. Delta P is an invisible killer. It doesn't make a sound. It doesn't create a warning. If you move your hand or your leg too close to that invisible vacuum, the ocean will force your body into a hole the size of a golf ball. It happens in a fraction of a second. The pressure does not negotiate. You force the thought out of your head and focus back on the wrench. You have to stay entirely in the present moment. One bolt at a time. 6 hours later, the supervisor's voice crackles in your ear. Diver 1, return to the bell. You are physically ruined. Your shoulders ache, your fingers are stiff, and you are dangerously cold. You follow your yellow umbilical back through the black water until you see the faint, ghostly glow of the diving bell. You pull yourself up through the bottom hatch, dragging your heavy body back into the cramped, damp sphere. The crane hauls you back up to the surface ship, but coming back up doesn't mean you get to go home. The bell locks back onto the main living chamber. You crawl back into the metal tube. You peel off your wet suit, smelling the heavy stench of sweat, oil, and damp neoprene. You eat food that tastes like nothing, passed into the chamber through a small medical airlock. Everything you eat, everything you drink, every piece of trash you produce goes through that tiny lock. You lie down in your tiny bunk, a curtain separating you from the man breathing heavily next to you. You try to sleep, but the chamber is never quiet. The air scrubbers hiss constantly. The communication speakers crackle. The metal walls vibrate with the relentless humming of the ship's engines outside. You close your eyes, but you can still feel the weight of the ocean pressing against the steel walls. This cycle repeats. Dive. Work in the dark. Return to the tube. Sleep in the noise. For 21 straight days. You lose track of whether it is day or night on the surface. The only time that exists is the supervisor's clock. Finally, the job is done. But you cannot simply open the door and step out. Now begins the hardest part. Decompression. You are sitting on a ship, surrounded by fresh air and sunlight just inches on the other side of the steel wall, but you cannot have it. The pressure inside your chamber must be bled off agonizingly slowly to allow the dangerous gases to safely leave your tissues. For the next 7 days, you do nothing but sit in the tube and wait. You watch the pressure gauge drop by a fraction of a bar every hour. The chamber gets hotter as the pressure drops. The boredom is suffocating. The physical space feels smaller every single day. Tempers flare over nothing. A misplaced towel, a loud chewer. You are 4 exhausted, mentally drained men trapped in a cage, staring at a metal door that will kill you if you open it. You start to obsess over your body. You check your joints. Does my shoulder hurt because of the work, or is it a nitrogen bubble forming in the bone? You massage your knees, terrified of the bends, the decompression sickness that can leave you paralyzed for the rest of your life. Day 26. Day 27. The gauge finally nears 0. The air inside the chamber starts to feel thin, normal. Your voice slowly drops back down to its natural pitch. You speak to the guy across from you, and for the first time in a month, you sound like yourself again. Day 28. The supervisor's voice comes over the speaker, clear and unfiltered. Pressure equalized. Clear to open the outer hatch. You grab the heavy steel handle. You pull it. The seal breaks with a loud hiss. The heavy door swings open. The first thing that hits you is the smell. Not the sterile, metallic smell of heliox, but the smell of salt, diesel, and actual, unfiltered ocean air. The natural sunlight pours into the dark tube, blinding you instantly. You step out onto the deck of the ship. Your legs are weak. The horizon looks impossibly wide after spending a month staring at a wall 2 feet from your face. The crew on the deck nods at you, going about their day. To them, it's just another Tuesday. They have no idea where you just were. They have no idea what it feels like to live in the crushing, silent dark. You take a deep breath. You are back in the world. But for a long time afterward, whenever you close your eyes, you won't see the sun. You will only see the black water and hear the slow, rhythmic hiss of your own breathing in the dark.